The pursuit of flawlessness has entered its most dangerous era. In 2025, the boundary between refinement and fixation has dissolved entirely. What once began as just one little improvement has spiraled into an endless cycle of chasing an impossible ideal. Today, we reveal 10 of the most shocking transformations of recent years, stories of women who pursued perfection until they became strangers to themselves. They are warnings, and by the end, you will understand exactly why. 10. Cindy Jackson. The woman who earned a Guinness World Record for undergoing more cosmetic procedures than anyone else in history. Raised in small-town Ohio, Cindy felt trapped in features she believed never matched who she wanted to be. Growing up beside a beautiful sister, she saw herself as ordinary. Staring at Barbie dolls, she decided plastic perfection was her path. When her father died, the inheritance he left became her transformation fund. Instead of spending it on school or stability, Cindy devoted every dollar to creating what she called her ideal version, a real-life Barbie in human form. Over 14 years across the 80s and 90s, she underwent 52 documented procedures costing more than $100,000. Facelifts that tightened her skin, rhinoplasties refining her nose, eye lifts widening her gaze, liposuction reshaping her frame, cheek implants, chin reduction, breast augmentation, endless fillers. Botox became routine. She even injected collagen into her hands to keep them youthful. By the time Guinness recognized her in 1999, Cindy had erased the Midwestern girl she once was. Childhood photos beside her new face looked like unrelated people. Now 68, Cindy continues frequent procedures. She works as an aesthetic advisor, insisting her heavily altered look is natural, even claiming biological tests place her age at 30. Her transformation was chosen and celebrated, but the next one revolved around chasing a fantasy that pushed body modification into uncharted extremes. 9. Amanda Lepore, the transgender icon often described as having the most expensive body in the world. Her transformation began at 15 with her first nose surgery. At 17, she completed gender confirmation surgery, but those were only the first steps in turning herself into a piece of living art shaped by pinup glamour and old Hollywood beauty. Across the decades, Amanda underwent a long list of procedures. Lip fillers created her signature oversized pout. Multiple rhinoplasties refined her profile into something delicate and doll-like. Cheek implants sculpted dramatic heart-shaped contours. A brow lift opened her eyes into a wide, doe-like stare. Her most infamous alteration was the removal of her lower ribs, a high-risk operation that produced an extremely small waist. Despite dangers involving organ pressure and breathing issues, Amanda pursued the surgery without hesitation. Botox and fillers remained constant. Maintenance, keeping her image polished like an artwork that requires continual restoration. In 2025, she continues adjusting her features, adding new enhancements to her already extreme silhouette. Her proportions have grown so exaggerated that some say she resembles a living cartoon. Each update spreads quickly online, often more intense than the last. Yet Amanda embraces every change, unapologetic and unwavering in her vision. Amanda Lepore did more than modify her appearance. She transformed herself into a walking art installation, showing how the pursuit of beauty can shift from expression to fixation. Her transformation forces a disturbing question. At what point does chasing an ideal erase the person beneath the surface? Next is a transformation so extreme it became a worldwide emblem of surgical obsession. 8. Pixie Fox. The woman who set out to become a living cartoon, no matter the cost. Born in Sweden, Pixie carried a singular ambition to turn herself into a real-life Jessica Rabbit with proportions that defied human anatomy. What followed became one of the most extreme surgical transformations ever documented. Her journey spans more than 100 procedures over many years. Breast augmentations created a chest so large she needed custom clothing. Multiple nose surgeries shrank her features into a doll-like profile. But her most shocking operation involved removing 6 lower ribs, reducing her waist to 16 inches, smaller than the circumference of most legs. Rib removal is considered one of the most dangerous cosmetic surgeries, bringing risks of organ injury, impaired breathing, and potentially fatal complications. Doctors universally warn against it. Pixie proceeded anyway, documenting every step online as viewers reacted with fascination and fear. Her waist now appears anatomically impossible, curving inward in ways no natural skeleton allows. And she did not stop. She added cheek implants, lip injections, brow lifts, eye color changes, and dramatic butt buttock enlargement. Each procedure pushed her further from human realism and closer to the animated fantasy she envisioned. By 2024, her appearance had become so extreme that people questioned whether her images were edited. New posts continued to reveal additional enhancements. Pixie defends her choices, saying she has never felt more complete. Experts remain alarmed about the long-term consequences of her operations, especially the irreversible rib removal. Pixie Fox did more than alter her body. She pushed herself to the edge of human possibility, creating a form that exists between performance art and a stark warning about the dangers of obsessive transformation. Her journey was voluntary, but the next story shows what happens when one misguided decision spirals into a lifetime of irreversible consequences. 7. Jocelyn Wildenstein. The woman the world calls Catwoman, whose transformation became one of the most extreme ever witnessed. In the 1970s, Jocelyn was a stunning Swiss socialite with soft, refined features and graceful European elegance. After marrying billionaire Alec Wildenstein, she entered a life of luxury most people can barely imagine. Everything appeared flawless until she discovered her husband's obsession with exotic cats and his repeated affairs with far younger women. Desperate to recapture his attention, Jocelyn made a decision that would come to define the rest of her life. Influenced by his love of felines, she began altering her face to mimic cat-like traits. What started as a single operation grew into decades of procedures, costing millions and requiring endless hours in surgical recovery. Her eyes underwent the most dramatic changes. Multiple eyelid surgeries reshaped and lifted them into an extreme upward tilt that closely resembled a cat's gaze. The effect was intense, almost otherworldly. Her cheekbones were enhanced with implants and fillers that created sharp, unnatural protrusions along her face. Her lips were enlarged again and again, becoming fuller with every injection and revision. Aggressive skin tightening left her face glossy and stretched, clinging tightly to the altered bone structure beneath. The overall result was astonishing. She no longer resembled a typical human by any familiar standard. The heartbreak cuts deep. Despite spending an estimated $4 million trying to win back Alec's affection, he left her in 1999, reportedly unsettled by how drastically she had transformed and how unrecognizable she had become. In December 2024, Jocelyn made her final public appearances in Paris, still displaying the extreme features she had committed to for decades. On December 31st, 2024, she passed away peacefully from a pulmonary embolism at the age of 84. Her partner Lloyd Klein confirmed her death, marking the end of one of the most infamous and tragic cosmetic journeys ever chronicled. Jocelyn's transformation was startling. The next story is chilling because she walked into it knowingly and without hesitation. 6. Janice Dickinson, the woman who declared herself the world's first supermodel, once representing fierce beauty and unmatched confidence on runways across the globe. In the 70s and 80s, Janice dominated fashion capitals from Paris to Milan to New York. Her angular cheekbones, sharp jawline, and intense presence made her unforgettable. She was not traditionally pretty, she was bold, raw, fearless. Cameras could not look away, but Janice refused to accept aging the way many peers did. Starting in her 30s with breast implants, she entered a decades-long cycle of surgical intervention, facelifts, multiple liposuction sessions, cheek implants adding fullness, constant lip fillers, Botox, rhinoplasty refining her nose. Procedures arrived in steady waves. By the 2000s, during her reality TV era, she looked dramatically different from her modeling prime. Her skin appeared unnaturally tight, pulled across features that seemed sharper yet strangely less defined. Cheek implants clashed with her original bone structure, while heavily filled lips dominated her face entirely. The consequences ran deeper than appearance. Years of surgery drained her finances. In 2013, Janice filed for bankruptcy. Overwhelmed by medical debt, she later appeared on Botched to address complications from a previous breast procedure, exposing the long-term harm she had endured. Still, Janice rarely showed regret. She embraced her altered face with the same intensity she once brought to the runway, even as the public watched her sink further into surgical dependency. As of 2024, she continues undergoing treatments, her transformation standing as a stark reminder of the beauty industry's unforgiving demands. The next downward spiral turned a young mother's rising fame into an identity crisis she could never outrun. 5. Farrah Abraham. the teen mom personality who went from a naturally radiant young star to a symbol of surgical excess. In 2009, 19-year-old Farrah appeared on 16 and Pregnant with soft, natural beauty and an effortless charm. Even while navigating early motherhood, her Syrian ancestry gave her striking features that needed no enhancement at all. Then the surgeries began. Starting at 19 with her first breast augmentation, Farrah entered a long spiral of cosmetic procedures costing hundreds of thousands. 3 more breast surgeries followed. Multiple nose operations reshaped her face into something nearly unrecognizable. She added a chin implant, then removed it after regretting the results. The cycle only intensified. Butt injections, cheek fillers that created an artificial roundness, lip injections that left her mouth swollen, vaginal rejuvenation procedures presented publicly. More disturbing, her 9-year-old daughter filmed some of them, sparking outrage and serious concerns about boundaries. By late 2024, her appearance still drew alarm, after a botched dissolver treatment left one side of her face enlarged and the other unchanged. She posted an angry Yelp review claiming the clinic refused to fix both sides. The owner replied that they stopped treating her because she insisted on unsafe procedures. Public appearances in 2025 show a face tightened by excessive Botox and fillers. She has admitted spending more than $50,000 on her lips alone and proudly calls herself a $1 million body, already planning her next surgery. But while Farrah's choices came from willingly chasing an unattainable ideal, the next story shows how desperation and vulnerability can lead to absolute ruin. 4. Rajay Narinizing, the woman whose search for self-affirmation led her straight into the hands of a predator posing as a medical professional. In 2005, Raji was a transgender woman seeking facial feminization to feel aligned with her identity. Like many facing financial barriers and discrimination, she turned to an underground injector who promised cheap treatments, quick results, and compassion. Instead, she received a nightmare. The person she trusted injected her with a toxic mix of cement, mineral oil, and tire sealant, industrial materials used for cars and construction, not the human body, substances that should never enter living tissue. Within weeks, her face began to harden, lumps pushed through her skin, expanding into painful, uneven masses. Her cheeks ballooned into distorted shapes strangers stared at in shock. The toxic slurry migrated unpredictably, creating deformities that made her unrecognizable. Her skin became rough and uneven as cement solidified beneath the surface like a sculpture collapsing on itself. Raji withdrew from the world, hiding for years while battling shame, depression, and constant physical pain. She lost opportunities, relationships, and her sense of self. The emotional devastation eclipsed even the medical complications. Her turning point came in 2015 on Botched, where real surgeons attempted reconstruction, but cement fused into facial tissue is almost impossible to remove without destroying the face entirely. Multiple surgeries softened some deformities, but full reversal was unattainable. The damage remains permanent. By 2024, Raji became an outspoken advocate against unlicensed cosmetic providers, sharing her story to prevent others from falling into the same trap. Public appearances show her scars still visible, a stark reminder of trust betrayed and vulnerability exploited. Raji's story is rooted in victimization, but the next woman was destroyed by the reflection she could not bear to face. 3. Erin Moriarty, the star of The Boys, whose shifting appearance ignited brutal online harassment and became a stark example of Hollywood's crushing expectations. When Erin appeared as Starlight in Amazon's breakout hit in 2019, she was 25 and radiated a wholesome, natural glow. Her expressive eyes, soft features, and earnest presence made her character's integrity believable and instantly beloved by audiences around the world. Then the nitpicking began. As The Boys gained a massive following, viewers scrutinized every scene, comparing screenshots from season to season with obsessive detail. They insisted her face had changed, slimmer, more angular, her nose looked narrower, her jaw appeared sharper, her cheeks seemed depleted. Forums filled with accusations, rhinoplasty, fat removal, jaw sculpting, lip injections, Botox. The criticism escalated. In January 2024, former Fox News host Megyn Kelly dedicated an entire segment to ridiculing Erin's face, calling it proof of mental instability and surgical obsession. The clip spread rapidly, unleashing a storm of cruelty and non-stop insults across every major platform. Erin responded with a devastating post on Instagram, calling the rumors insultingly untrue, and revealing how the harassment had wrecked her mental health completely. She announced she was stepping away from social media because she could no longer handle the abuse. She later deleted the post, but the damage had already settled. Plastic surgeons examining her images suggested she had very little work done at all, perhaps minimal adjustments, mostly explainable through makeup techniques, weight fluctuation, professional styling, and natural aging between 25 and 30. But her detractors were not interested in accuracy. The narrative had been cemented. By mid-2024, Erin returned to Instagram ahead of The Boys Season 4 premiere, saying she was no longer devastated but strengthened by the experience. She received thousands of messages from women who had endured similar appearance-based torment. Still, the speculation refuses to stop. Her co-star Karen Fukuhara admitted she had been genuinely concerned for Erin during the worst moments, reminding fans that no one is invincible, even when they appear composed publicly. Her transformation was molded by outside pressure, but the next story shows what happens when a single terrible decision destroys decades of beauty. 2. Priscilla Presley, the refined widow of Elvis, once representing timeless grace and quiet sophistication throughout Hollywood's golden years. For decades after Elvis's death in 1977, Priscilla aged with astonishing elegance, preserving a classic beauty admired by fans worldwide. She stood as a symbol of traditional Hollywood charm, avoiding dramatic interventions or frantic attempts to halt time. Then came 2003, the year that shattered her appearance irreversibly. Priscilla visited unlicensed practitioner Daniel Serrano for what she believed were simple cosmetic fillers meant to maintain her youthful glow. Instead, he injected her with industrial silicone, a harsh, toxic material never approved for cosmetic use or injection into the human face under any circumstances. The consequences were catastrophic. Within months, hard lumps formed beneath her skin, painful to touch and impossible to ignore. Swelling distorted her elegant features until they became unrecognizable. Parts of her face lost mobility entirely as the silicone damaged muscle and nerve tissue permanently. Severe scarring created uneven textures that makeup could no longer hide. Attempted corrective surgery in 2008 was unable to fully remove the silicone. Once injected, it migrates through facial layers, embedding itself deeply and becoming nearly impossible to extract without destroying the surrounding tissue. Despite multiple operations, her cheekbones remained unnaturally swollen and misshapen. Her skin took on a waxy, stretched appearance that cameras amplified harshly. Cancer-related surgery in 2019 added new scars. Rather than accept the damage, she pursued more treatments, each attempting to correct what the last procedure failed to fix. Throughout 2024, public appearances from Priscilla sparked heartbreak among longtime fans. At events that year, her face showed minimal movement, features appearing tense and overly tightened. The refined lines that once captivated Elvis were hidden beneath swelling and scar tissue that will never fully disappear. But where Priscilla's transformation was the result of a devastating betrayal, the final story centers on a woman who willingly dismantled the very image that made her legendary. 1. Lil Kim, the queen bee of hip-hop, once the radiant, fearless face of 90s rap royalty and an icon of black female empowerment. At her peak in the mid-90s, Lil Kim was unforgettable. Her deep brown skin glowed with confidence. Her full features celebrated her identity with pride. She exuded fierce sexuality and raw talent that reshaped the landscape for women in hip-hop. Every photo, every video pulsed with power. Her beauty was defiant and inspiring. Then everything changed in ways few could have predicted. Her transformation reportedly began after domestic violence from rapper Notorious B.I.G. left her with a broken nose that required reconstructive surgery. What began as medical necessity spiraled into something far darker and more emotionally rooted than the public understood. Her nose became dramatically slimmer through repeated rhinoplasties, eventually narrowing to a point that barely resembled her original beautiful structure. Her skin tone grew significantly lighter over the years, leading to widespread speculation of bleaching treatments. Claims she has denied, even though photos make the change difficult to dismiss. Her cheeks expanded into round, sculpted shapes likely produced by heavy filler use, dramatically altering her natural facial contours. Botox smoothed her skin to a wax-like finish, limiting her expressions. And perhaps the most discussed change, her lips grew disproportionately fuller through repeated augmentation, adding to an increasingly exaggerated appearance that no longer resembled the fearless rapper fans once knew. By 2024 and into 2025, Lil Kim's public appearances continue to shock longtime supporters. In recent performances and red carpet events, her features appear stiff and overfilled, creating a mask-like effect that fans openly mourn. The woman who once embodied the power and beauty of black womanhood appears transformed beyond recognition.